Hi, I'm Mark from Property Ventures. Welcome to this week's New Zealand Property Podcast, where we interview the property expert around New Zealand. Hi, and welcome back to the New Zealand Property Podcast series. And today we have Campbell Venning sitting next to me. A lot of you will know him from many years in property, Campbell. And in fact, I found out last night, it was about 14 years ago, I went to a presentation and it was you up the front of the room, so you've been around longer than me. So welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks Mark. Well, to make you feel better, I've got friends that I've known for 35 years that don't still know what I do. So I just tell people I'm a property guy because I've been lucky in property. I've touched many different parts, from renos, trades, finance, development. So yeah, I've touched every. The only thing I haven't been is a valuer, and I don't think I want to be.
No, that's the good idea to stay away from valuations. That's great. So what we're here today, why I've got you along, you have expertise in a lot of areas and you invest in a lot of areas. And what today we're going to do is do a bit of a market update on Queenstown. And I know you've got property yourself there, and there is a hidden agenda behind this. Well, it's not hidden anymore, I'm telling you all. We have got a good product in Queenstown that I'd like to talk about. So we thought it was an opportunity to get you along, tell us what's going on there with the market and also the rental market. So we'll start off with, you've got I believe a room by room, I think, down there. Tell us about the property market overall before we talk about the room by room property.
Yeah, I'll use Auckland as a comparison. If you take Queenstown, which is the golden part of the triangle, Auckland is the golden part of the Tauranga-Hamilton triangle. And if you look at that as location comparisons, Auckland, Tauranga, Hamilton, Queenstown, Wanaka, Cromwell, and they're all in this triangle. And people from Cromwell work in Queenstown, people in Cromwell work in Wanaka, and Queenstown is the mecca. And if you go to America, Aspen, Vale, Brackenridge, same thing. It used to be a lifestyle destination. It used to be a tourist town. It used to be a place where wealthy South Island farmers would have their batches in Wanaka and leave them empty 3/4 of the year. But with the growth in Auckland that we've seen, I'm up here in Auckland with Mark, we've been at an event last night together. A lot of very wealthy Aucklanders that have gotten rich over the last 6 years have invested down south. And what I've seen also in terms of that investment is I'm now seeing migration flowing into central Otago in terms of permanent long-term residences. And not just from Auckland, from Hamilton, from Tauranga, from the Hawke's Bay, and also a lot of the migrant workers that are coming to New Zealand, especially in the construction industry. Queenstown especially has unbelievable undersupply and is getting government money fast-tracking infrastructure spend and building. So that brings jobs for British, Irish, English builders, South African. So I'm seeing a lot more international long-term residents in Queenstown.
Right. And you're going back, 10 years ago when the financial crisis sort of hit, Queenstown dropped a bit, but 11 years ago, Queenstown, as you said, was just where farmers sort of went invest, but it was a winter-only destination. It was winter, everyone went there, they skied, and that was it. Now it's an all-year-round destination, 10, 12 years later. The amount of international visitors there all year round is phenomenal. Workers all year round is phenomenal. So it's certainly a different beast now, and there's certainly new infrastructure that's gone, the airport extensions. They want to fly direct to Asia in the next few years, I believe. A lot different than it was 10, 15 years ago.
Huge different. And Queenstown historically has had a boom-bust cycle, and I can't see that happening for a very long time for a number of reasons. The international airport that you're talking about, there's now more air movements out of Queenstown than there is out of Wellington Airport. Secondly, the demographic is changing. We're seeing a lot of long-term residents, as I said, moving from around New Zealand, but also internationally. And I guess it used to be a lifestyle destination, whereas now it's a true tourist mecca. And summer now actually eclipses winter. And they used to have the shoulder seasons where the locals would actually get some time off. Those actually don't exist anymore. It's busy right throughout, and I go down there pretty much every month, and I've never seen the airport quiet. I've never seen the roads quiet. There is a construction boom going on in Queenstown.
Absolutely. No, a great place to visit and a great place to live if you can do that, or for the overseas people that come in and work for a season or 2 seasons or a couple of years. Okay, so that's sort of set the scene there, and the average price is in excess of $1 million. It's actually more. The average price is more expensive than Auckland to buy property right now, which says, how's sort of second-hand product, 3-4 bedroom homes can compare with a brand new place looking over the water sort of thing. What sort of prices to get, so people can get an idea of if they're buying a 3 or 4 bedroom home around the Queenstown area, what sort of are they paying for those sorts of prices compared with a brand new place with a view?
This is where Aucklanders relate to the numbers that I've seen firsthand. So I've been involved in Central Otago for a long time. My family's half from Christchurch, half from Dunedin, Southland. My parents' last family home was in Queenstown, in Lake Hayes Estate, which is the largest subdivision in Queenstown. So I've been down there a lot, but I've also done a lot of property deals over the last 10 years down there. And I'll give you an example, which it takes a lot to shock me. But I bought we used to be in room by room accommodation in Queenstown, and I converted a room by room property that was getting $1,000 a week as rough worker accommodation, and we converted that to high end accommodation, and we now get between $500 and $800 a night for it. So, wow. And our average booking is seven nights. So we're in the short term space, and we've got a number of properties like that in our family across Queenstown. But let's go back to stock standard long term. We bought a property on Frankton Road in a little complex called Alpine Village. Very well built, tilt slab, 2-story, 3-story including garage, kitchen lounge upstairs, bedrooms next floor, garage bottom floor. And it had a tandem garage, and it had a little bit of land on the end. It was a corner unit. Anyway, I paid $505,000 for this unit. It was rented to a Japanese couple who had been renting there for 2 years for $420 a week off memory. Mm-hmm. And we decided we were going to short term it. We were going to convert the tandem garage into a single garage, 3rd bedroom, 3rd bathroom. Because 3 bedroom, 3 bathroom works in the short term, 2 bedroom, 2 bathroom doesn't. Anyway, so I handed it to the boss, who is an amazing interior designer, and she, this is my wife, she came up with a plan. I did the math. We were going to spend 50 to 75 grand doing this conversion, including consents and architecturals and all that. And then time ticked on. I gave notice to the tenant to get ready for it, and we then were starting to have a second thought about this renovation, because I was seeing prices in Queenstown go crazy. And then the next door unit, so we paid $505 for this place. 9 months after we bought ours, and I'd given notice to the tenant, the neighbour sold for $680,000. Nice. And theirs was an inferior unit because we were on the corner. And I said to Sam, I'm not sure if that makes sense now to short term this, because if we can get 700 grand for this property, that's a $200,000 gain in less than a year. And secondly, you don't have to go through the pain and suffering of renovating it was a 10-year-old property. You don't have to go through the pain and suffering of renovating a 10-year. And she agreed, because she had a hell of a lot on. She was doing some stuff in Christchurch for us on a property that we'd just settled, and she's been on a pretty large home project. Anyway, because I'd given notice, we decided that, and I went away with Bailey's, and I used Bailey's in Queenstown, and worked out the best marketing plan, and the place was furnished, but it was shitty furniture. It was 10 years old. So anyway, then I had to get Samantha involved again, and so she spent a week in Queenstown making this place look new. And the one thing I'll say about trading and short-term accommodation, if you do furniture cheaply, you get a cheap result. Because she turned a 10-year-old property into a brand new property with furniture and staging. So we're having our first AGM as a public listed business in Australia the day of the auction, which was just bad timing, so I couldn't be at the auction. It's an Auckland auctioneer. I've heard he's apparently famous. I was so annoyed that I missed him, but I listened to the auction, and what do you reckon this guy got for our property 6 weeks after the neighbouring unit sold for $680,000?
Oh, better condition, you'd say early 7s at least.
Well, my old man, who's an optimist, he said 800, and I said, "Are you drunk?" Because I said 720.
Yeah.
Sam, my wife, said 700, and it sold under the hammer with 12 bidders at 785.
Wow, nice.
And it takes a lot to surprise me in real estate. This is for second-hand it wasn't 3, we hadn't converted it. 2 bedroom, 2 bath.
And how long ago was this?
This was in November of last year.
Okay, yeah.
Now
regular recent prices on there.
So last night, you may remember, I put the sword into second-hand stock. And I put the sword into second-hand stock, and I own a 1930s house. Because in the same town, in arguably a better location for house and landowners, for mum and dad building their own home, we are selling properties under 700,000 that are 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom, and they're brand new. So people have this love affair for old and second-hand property, which I don't believe in, because it doesn't stand the test of time. An older car is not as powerful or safe as a new car. But not to mention, anyone bought that property as an investment property, 60% mortgage, enforced by the Reserve Bank.
Yeah.
So the Reserve Bank's effectively saying that's too much. So I think that property's crazy numbers. Now in Aucklanders' eyes it might not be, but a 120 square metre 2-bedroom 2-bathroom for $785. That's when I take the capital gain, and with my trading hat on,
Absolutely.
We had a nice dinner that night. We rewarded ourselves. So yeah, I think the market down there is twofold. There's an insane number of international and domestic buyers going in there.
Yeah.
And they're pricing out the locals. So a lot of Queenstown locals have had to move to Cromwell. They've had to move to Wanaka, because we've got an identical situation happening in Wanaka. Population there has doubled in the last 4 years, and they're expecting it to double again in the next 10 years. Secondly is the rental market. The government is very aware that there are 2 areas in New Zealand which are having a rental crisis right now. One's Auckland and one's Queenstown. And we see this firsthand all the time. After we decided not to convert the property from 2-bed, 2-bath to 3, I had it was more than 8. It was 3 months. 3 months before the auction.
Right.
And even though I'm a property guy and I trade properties and make those sorts of margins, I can't stand an empty aeroplane or an empty airline seat or an empty rental. So we stuck a tenant in there because it was furnished, averagely. We hadn't staged it at this point, for 12 weeks. And we got $680 a week for it. And we found that tenant within 7 days, and we had 3 other tenants. So there's truly a rental crisis going on. So worker accommodation doesn't exist in Queenstown. And the property...
Even reading in the Herald 3 weeks ago, it was talking about that on the Saturday on the front page. It was the worker accommodation there. There's nowhere for them to stay. And I know a place also down there, and it's about a $1.3 million sale, second-hand product, and there's 6 people sleeping in a garage.
Yep.
They need quality accommodation, because there's just not enough of it. And they're willing to pay good money, aren't they, for a room or a room and a bathroom. But a room itself, you're paying sort of $300 for, or close to it, aren't you?
$300 to $350 for a couple renting a room by room in Queenstown. The market rate's $350. If you're a single person renting a room, because it comes with power and Sky, it's $300.
Right.
Now, if anything, I think that's under pressure right now, because we were getting those rents 4 years ago, because we converted one of these properties to a high-end short-term place. But what amazes me is developer short-sightedness. And I'm not beating all developers up, but take Queenstown, probably lesser than Wanaka, but right now in Wanaka there are huge numbers of subdivisions coming out off the plan. Now these are 3 years away, because you cannot build subdivisions in a place like Central Otago quickly. And we're involved in a subdivision in Wanaka called North Lake, and we're involved in a subdivision in Queenstown called Bridesdale, which settled this week. I had 11 settlements on Monday, and it was a crazy day because I was travelling. But those properties are all in the early 6s in terms of finished house and land packages, and if any of them are sold in the next, once they're built and once people are living in that neighbourhood, I think they'll have an 8 or a 9 in front of it. And all of the developers that I'm criticising here are going in for resource consents with far bigger land sizes than they need to.
Right, okay. Yep.
Queenstown, the Bridesdale subdivision was the first subdivision in Central Otago to get the special housing area resource consent granted, and it allowed for smaller, high density living, 300 square metre lot sizes. And it doesn't look like Edward Scissorhand, it doesn't look like Coronation Street. He's put in a wine bar, he's put in beautiful roads and footpaths, streetscape, where there's been hills, he's built the sections with views. He's also prescripted the housing type. They are all architecturally designed, so you don't even get the section, you get the house plans to build one of 10 house types. You also get a little garden allotment and a garage. So seeing subdivisions like that is what this country needs, not 400, 500, 600 square metre sections for $500,000, which someone then needs to plough another million in to build. That's crazy. That's not the common man. That's not the market. Tenants can't afford to rent that, and owner-occupiers can't afford to buy it. So I think the developers that are building that stuff, Danger, Will Robinson. But the ones that are targeting affordable housing, like Remarkable's Residences in Remarkable's Queenstown, Northlake in Wanaka, Hanley's Farm out Jack's Point, that's the market that the working class, that the common man on the street can afford. And to give you some other crazy stats, when Bailey's launched Hanley's Farm out near Jack's Point, just before Jack's Point, 650 people registered for 60 sections.
Nice.
Oh, well, it was apparently, I wasn't there, but they didn't do a ballot system. They actually probably should have. They just did. First on the list gets first priority. You've got to go into a tent, sign an unconditional agreement, and promise to pay the deposit within 3 days. It was a relatively buy now or forever leave your peace sort of thing. So, look, I don't think Baileys were expecting that either. You know, they did a pretty good marketing job, but it's also relevant to
some of those subdivisions down there. They do it by the ballot now, don't they? You have to by a certain date.
I think it's fair.
Yeah.
So the late Howard Patterson did Lake Hayes Estate that way, and that was where Mum and Dad built their family home, and it was very civil, organised, and fair. So I hope we see more of that.
Yeah. Well, it's great. You actually they're trying to do that in Auckland, but they can't. But they are having affordable homes, brand new homes in the most beautiful part of the country, and one under the $1 million average what it costs to buy a property in Queenstown.
Well, I mean, I guess I'm quoting stuff I've been doing for the last couple of years. Like these settlements we had on Monday, I started that deal 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Now, and I always liken it back to an investor. When we put that deal out to investors 2 years ago, Queenstown was flat. Well, it wasn't dead. It was just ticking along.
Yeah.
But we've been 2 years into a very high performing property, so I was optimistic about the market, and we got rental assets. So this was a house and land location in Mum and Dad's suburb, but because of the price point, you know, we were buying the sections for the early twos, mid twos. It was prime for investors. But I found a lot of cynical Aucklanders and Cantabrians and Wellingtonians. I think we got a dozen clients in there, but we went and did all the math and homework, and our rental assessments in those days were $500 to $525 a week for a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom house.
Yeah.
And we really didn't blink. We thought, yep, that sounds about right for Queenstown. And my father was renting his old family home out before he sold it, and he was getting $700 a week for a 5-bedroom home. So I thought, oh yeah, that may be a bit light, but that's okay. We'd rather underestimate than overestimate. 2 weeks ago, we got the rental assessments updated by the same companies, $750 to $825 for the same property.
Nice.
Because of demand.
Some pretty happy investors buying them right at the moment.
Well, there's just a queue of I mean, they've got to build the houses. They've just got the land, but and we're managing that for them. That's one of the things we do. So what I'm seeing is rental stabilisation nationally, because no matter whether you live in Auckland, Cambridge, Masterton, Taupo, Wanganui, Invercargill, or Dunedin or Christchurch, incomes and general jobs are pretty similar. You know, if you're a high-powered salesperson in Auckland, you're probably earning more than a high-powered salesperson in Christchurch. But we're talking small numbers. But if you're a clerical worker, if you're a back office worker, if you're a marketing person, you're probably getting paid the same amount. So people are looking at down there and going, well, shit, I've been saving up to buy a $1.2 million house in Auckland when I can go and buy a $600,000 brand new house in a subdivision where my kids can bike to school without going on the roads. All those subdivisions along Lady 5 Mile in Queenstown, there is John Key's bike track. We spent $7 million upgrading them all around the country, and the local councils doubled it. You can bike along a beautiful track to Shotover Primary, which is in one of the subdivisions, and the new Whakatupu High, which is 3/4 built in Remarkables. So pretty safe place to bring kids up, and pretty cheap and affordable housing. So tenants are wanting to move there because of those facilities. You know, there's cafes and bars in Lake Hayes Estate. There's a new wine bar at Bridesdale, primary school in Shotover Country. And if you're up for a bigger bike, you can bike to the Bungee Jump Bridge Cafe. You can bike to Bendermere, have a wee wine bar at the bottom of it. And if you've won Lotto, you can bike to Amersfield Vineyard. And they're all within 10 minutes bikes.
Yeah. I mean, the places, actually, the towns around Central Otago are getting so closer with so many areas, like cafes. Just the infrastructure is, I go there about once every year or so, and every time you notice a whole lot more, you know, stuff going on. It's a bit like Christchurch, you go there every month, you notice it. Queenstown, every year you notice it.
You do.
A lot of infrastructure. So let's go. So obviously all the fundamentals are there, the infrastructure happening, the reasons why people are going there, and yet we talk about the rent, the demand. It's a 12-month a year thing. We have got this product in Remarkables that's really been purpose made to suit what the shortage is, isn't it, in Queenstown, with this 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom or 3-bathroom type product. That's I think pretty well priced, because I know a similar concept back in Cromwell 10 years ago that was actually $100,000 more than this product that we've got now coming up. Just to tell us briefly about this. So we're in stage 1 at the moment of how many stages in the Remarkable?
I think it's 8. There's 220 units all up.
So stage 1, and as everyone knows, listens, that's heard me talk in the past and talk to other people, stage 1 or 2, or where you want to get in with these developments.
It's always the cheapest.
Yeah, and we've seen already from the last 2 or 3 years what's happened with what you just spoke about in other regions. So tell us just briefly about that project.
Absolutely.
The advantage of it, again, the rents, which I think were quoted about 300, where we know they're going to be a lot more than that per room.
Yeah, look, it's funny. The local property managers would love one tenant to rent the whole place, but it's a nearly $1 million property. If you're going to get the best return for your owner, I'm not calling those property managers lazy because I deal with them, but that's typically the way they've rented houses in Queenstown. Now, if I go back to I am on topic, but in the middle of the 90s, I was one of about 4 landlords in Wellington who had big old houses. I had a 10-room property, and we basically pioneered the room-by-room market into Wellington. And we collaborated, we met for beers and worked out the rules, and we literally came up with our own renting system where we would pay for a cleaner who did the common areas, power included in the rent, and we were getting exceptional return on costs versus renting it out to one household unit. And to this day, there's a huge number of room-by-room rentals in Wellington, and we're talking 12-month tenancies. In fact, we had one tenant that lasted 5 years in one of our properties.
Nice.
So the average length of stay was about 1.5 years per tenant, and Queenstown is no different. You can dictate 12 months, if not 24-month tenancies with room by room, because there's just no alternative for single people or couples. So it's kind of morphed itself in the market, and I have not found a property manager that specialises in it. In fact, Hamish from your company, he may have that right person. So you've actually got to ask the question, and I'm passionate about it because I was involved with it 20-something years ago. We had it in our property, and that was a good return. We paid $860,000 for a property that we were getting $300 a room, 4 rooms. But I knew we could do better than that, and now we've turned it into $180, $190 a year in short term and rentals. A bit more management on us, but my wife loves looking after that. So room by room sounds transient, and it sounds too hard. But each of those tenants has a contractual relationship with you individually. And when you set the rules up properly, and it's not hard to do that, you probably find it on Google, you can put them all in the same boat, and if they're causing noise, and we'd always have a head tenant that we liked, and say, right, you're the head tenant, you get $20 a week discount, you keep the peace here. Any trouble, let us know. And we have a number of clauses to make sure that they treat the property properly, because a $1 million property that's brand new, I want to treat it like a home. And if it's not treated well, we had one in our complex, and it was 5 bedrooms, and they actually moved a barbecue into the lounge, and they were cooking on it. And this property brand new was 1.5 million. And I rang the owner, he's a new Plymouth farmer. I said, mate, you need to come down to Queenstown and look at your house, because I've just been in it, and it looks like a ghetto. So it's dangerous if it's left unmanaged, but if it's managed properly, it's a cash cow. Yeah.
I imagine some of the places down there too, the local firms and industries will actually, once they get a hold of what they're building, will go, hey, actually, I want to fix this for the next year, 2 years, 3 years for my workers that come all year round, because they have obviously industries there that do this in winter and something else in summer, the same company or business owner, and I imagine they'll want to take 4 rooms or 8 rooms for 2 apartments or 2 townhouses. They'll probably take them out as a complete package anyway.
That is a bloody good idea, Mark, because I saw that in the first construction boom in Christchurch, we had at least a dozen companies approach us as a real estate agency. Do you know anyway? We see you're selling investment stock. Can you put us in touch with 10 owners? Because we want 10 properties so our workers can live together.
Yeah, so I can see that happening. Yeah, exactly that. So
and the insurance companies are doing the same. The insurance companies are rooming groups of houses in Christchurch for families in places like Wigram Sky. So, I mean, this 220 in a population area that's growing exponentially.
these properties will be let within weeks of completion. A lot of people look at them and go, oh, it's next to the airport, it'll be noisy. When planes land into Queenstown, they're gliding in, right? And when they're taking off, if they are taking off that way, the way airports have to operate now is they have to deliver sound acceptability in a suburb that doesn't disturb the neighbours, right? I don't know how the hell they do it, but it's those great big mounds that you see on either side of the runway.
Yeah.
And I have stood on Remarkable's residences watching a plane come in and a plane taking off, and yes, I'm a plane spotter, but I did not find any noise offensive. And tenants do not care about planes when they want to live close to town and avoid parking, transport costs, because they can walk into Remarkable's Park from this location.
Remarkable's Park's right by the airport. It's one of the most popular growing areas around the country, or certainly central Otago. I know the Remarkable's had something to do with, and they sold out the click of the fingers, and building a second one, and they've also been sold out as quick. So people don't really, as I said, whether it's how they do the sound or whatever, it's certainly not an issue.
Well, you were talking about infrastructure. Let me throw some infrastructure facts at the team. The bridge between Kelvin Heights and Jacks Point and Queenstown area, or Frankton, will be complete by the end of the year. Wakatipu High, complete by the end of the year. That's a brand new high school. So that used to be in I call it Old Queenstown now. That's a new Queenstown, which is Remarkable's Park. The resource consent to put a gondola from Remarkable's Park up to the Remarkable ski field has been granted. You've got all the commercial business district moving from Old Queenstown into Remarkable's, which will allow for more high-end shops in Old Queenstown. So you're seeing a transition of a CBD from Old Queenstown, which is so congested, and that will turn into high-end retail, high-end restaurants, bars. That is your party zone. That's your strip in Christchurch. That's your Courtney Place in Wellington. That's your viaduct in Auckland. That is Old Queenstown. And I'm wrapped because I've got a property down there. But I've also bought a very, very nice piece of land next to the Hilton, because I see the new CBD also attracting a whole different market from long-term tenants, short-term tenants, a mixture of room-by-room tenants. So Queenstown has grown sensibly. They've thought about it, and that after a lot of planning, if you look at the master plan for the Remarkables area, it's got high density, medium density, commercial, and retail, and it's 3/4 already there. The road around the top of the runway was confirmed in the press 2 weeks ago, and it's being constructed now. That will take congestion out of Frankton. Car parking, there's a park and ride facility being built right now, and that's right next to the residences. So anyone living in Remarkable's residences will not need a car, even though there's car parks there. So because of the shortage of property there, I'm picking a decent chunk of owner-occupiers will buy them. I'm picking a decent number of long-term single-tenant landlords will buy it because they're set and forget, they don't want the hassle of room by room. But I'm also picking at least 30 to 40% will be room by room, and those landlords, I reckon they're going to end up getting more than 300 a week. I reckon it'll be about 340, 350 a week because it's brand new. Yeah. Looks at Remarkables, looks at Coronet Peak.
Yeah, the rental prices have to be low from what we've experienced and seen, and you've personally experienced with what's going on there. So I mean, that these particular Remarkable townhouses we're looking at, 4 rooms at what we're saying $1,200 a week rent, they're quite probably going to be $1,300 to $1,350, and if that's the case, they were already about a $10,000 or $15,000 after tax cash flow, I think, for the first couple of years.
I tell people that and they don't believe me. They go, that's got to be an inflated rent. The property managers actually do admit, I've spoken, they're good people down there, really good people in Southland and Central Otago. They're just nervous putting it in paper. And they've said, look, if you instruct us to do it room by room, we reckon you'll get $300 to $350. So talk to them, ring these guys, do your due diligence, because I don't say this stuff to get a sale. I say this stuff because I've either got it in the past myself, if I'm renting that way, or I'm hearing it at the ground. I mean, you were talking about Cromwell. Cromwell rents have soared. Cromwell land a year ago was $99,000 a section. It's now $200,000 a section. So everything there is going up, and a lot of it is long-term people jumping in to build their homes, not speculators. It's an interesting change in demographic in terms of who's buying what.
Yeah, so all the fundamentals are there. We just spoke about right now. The rental fundamentals are there. with a lot of upside. And if these things were completed right now, they'll be probably worth a lot more than the 860 and 890, the 900 they're looking at. If the average price is over a million, and these are good-sized townhouses, they would have to be higher. So these are going to be two and a half years away from completion.
No, because they're being built in stages, Mark, and because they're not high-rise. No, they're expecting their construction timetable much shorter. I haven't heard the exact date, but I'm sure it was a 12-month build.
Yeah, in fact, stage one is next year. Stage one is
because it's not high-rise.
Yeah.
And so it's much easier. And the other thing with this one is the amount of times, and you've been in the game a long time, the amount of times I've seen deals where I go, that is just too cheap. Because I've had the benefit of 4 cycles, and so have you. This one, to me, in Queenstown, where the average house price is well over $1 million, in the 8s, for what it is, because it's not 2-bedroom, it's not 3-bedroom, it's 4-bedroom, with en suites and things, in such a prime location, I just think it's ludicrously cheap.
Yeah, right. And as you said, we've been around for a while. You do just occasionally get that deal. You go, man, that just appears really good or too good, sort of thing. And a lot of time, but we think that they are pretty damn good. And jumping on, in fact, we were at a seminar last night in Christchurch with some particularly good stock there for 400k, which is blowing me away. Was probably another one, but this Queenstown one we've underdone it, we've undercooked it. It's better than it's going to be better than it is when it's finished. It has to be. The all fundamental says it is. So
Oh, look, and I always look at this. I do the sensibility test. So we've bought a site in a subdivision called Lakes Edge, next to the Hilton. We've paid $900,000 for a site that's duplex capable. So that's $450k per bit of land. But we see that potentially as where Samantha and I are going to live once the kids all bugger off. But I am going to do a 4-bedroom so that I'm going to rent it short term in the meantime because we're 10 years in the country. But my build cost plus land, I will not have any change out of $1.5 million without question, right? And I've got the hassle factor of building it, and it's only because the views. I love views. I can just see myself growing old and dottery in a lounge chair looking at Coronet Peak. Literally from that site to Remarkable's residence, if I ran, it would take me 11 minutes because I do a lot of running. I know how tight. If I biked, I reckon it'd take me 4 minutes. And in the car, I reckon it'd take 5 minutes with traffic. So this proximity in the 8s, and in that subdivision where we are building, they've already had an on sale at 2.4 million off the plan for someone that just doesn't want the hassle factor. So yeah, 8s, 9s in Queenstown for a property with 4 bedrooms and that kind of yield to an Aucklander surely must seem cheap.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah.
Great stuff. I'll appreciate your time here today, Campbell. Just for the listeners, there's an update on, I suppose, what's going on in Queenstown, and there's a lot going on in there. The Remarkable project just been talking about. Stage 1 is just sort of coming to an end, and Stage 2 is about to be publicly advertised. Now's a chance. We have got some on hold for Stage 1, so give Hamish or myself an email or a phone call, and quickly if you do want to get on that. We will have more product through the stages, and any other stuff that Campbell's spoken about in the Wanaka, we do have other opportunities there, and we're about to put a couple more on our new build page on our site. So that's probably about all today. Feel free to contact us, and thank you for your time, Campbell.
No problem, Mark. And hey, the great news on this Remarkables one, they haven't done the big flash release. So these first ones that we've secured are in the early. It's the first pricing, so it's only going to go up from here. So it's not too late. You're not at the end of the spectrum on this one. And I have forgot to mention to you, over the coming weeks, we are planning a bus trip in Queenstown and Wanaka and Cromwell. It'll be a whole day affair. We'll put on lunches and things. So hopefully you better invite some of your clients on that. That'll be well after this is all sold out, this first stage. But we'll be showing them about 4 different projects, and we'd love to have your customers along on that trip with us.
Absolutely, yeah. So definitely, if you any interest in that, info at propertyventures.co.nz or info me, Mark at, and we'll get you down there and have a whale of a time down at Queenstown. Okay, hey, thank you very much, Campbell.
No worries. Hopefully that was informative.
Absolutely. Thanks, listeners, and we'll catch up next week.